Welcome back to the Piping Pastor. Well, today I'm going to be getting back into the Poetry in the Bible series by taking a look at Malcolm Guite's book, Faith, Hope, and Poetry, Theology and the Poetic Imagination, the book I was reading when we were on holiday, because I think there's some important points in there that I think are beneficial for people looking at theology and the study of the Bible and so forth, and science and things. So for that, smoking a new pipe today. I just got this. It's a nothing special, just a Dr. Grabo Riviera Smooth. I got this in particular because I'll be taking another trip here pretty soon. Not pretty soon, in about 4 or 5 weeks. 5 weeks, I think. And out into the wilderness to do my ministry out there again. And going to be a longer trip this time. Oh, lest I forget, I'm smoking 3 nuns. So in this trip, I typically only spend about maybe a couple weeks when I'm out there in the woods or in the desert, as it is here. Usually 10 days, 2 weeks tops. Anywhere from 4 or 5 days to 2 weeks. This trip's going to be a little bit more than a month. Right at a month, maybe a bit more. So, I'm going to need some more variety in tobacco. Typically, I just bring my pipe roll with my Whitlock pipe that came with the roll and some Northwoods, and then I'm good to go. But for this one, I'm going to want something more. So I got the second pipe so that I could bring some other blends as well, and I can rotate back and forth. Still going to bring some Northwoods. That's always a mainstay when I'm out in the wilderness. But I'm also bringing a couple of blends I haven't tried before. So I know it's a bit risky I'm going to crack them out there, but I wanted that experience to be something new. And they're known blends, so I've heard a lot about them, seen reviews on them. Components are pretty much stuff that I enjoy. So it's My Mixture 965 and oh goodness, the HU tobacco. It's one of their heavy Latakia blends. I can picture the purple label in my mind. I've already packed this stuff away, so I'm not going to get them out. So I'm bringing those 2 Northwoods, and then I'm also bringing a tin of some Capstan Navy Flake. So this guy here is going to be my secondary pipe, and I'll probably keep this one for the Capstan, and then use the Whitlock for the Englishes, the Latakia based tobacco from HU and Northwoods and so forth. But then I'll have a second pipe in the event that something happens to the first one, because I don't want to be stuck out there for a month in the woods without a pipe. It's tough enough being out there as it is, sleeping on the ground for 4 weeks. Gotta have a pipe at sunrise. Kind of gets the day started right. So, but that's not for a while yet. As I said, we heading out about 5 weeks, I think. So, and I will be sure to discuss that more as I get closer. Had a great day today. I had a visit with a friend. He and I served ministry together, have for years, and we haven't been co-located for a very long time. We initially both started out on the East Coast, and then I went north for a little while. He went south for a little while, and then I came out here to Texas, and he's out on the East Coast still. So, but he was here in El Paso for some training for just a couple of days, and he had a break in training this afternoon, so we were able to get together. He came over to the house. We got to hang out and talk for a few hours. So it's great. It's very encouraging. It's always good to get together with your friends, partners, accountability partners in ministry, and kind of check in with each other. Electronic communication is fine. And I do that with most of my friends because they're all over the world. But that in-person, one-on-one contact, especially in prayer, is very, very important. So I was glad I was able to do that today. So in any case, on to our reading for today. So this is Malcolm Guite discussing the need for the poetic imagination. And the idea behind this book is that during the Enlightenment, we moved away from imagination, creative thought, and things of that nature because we were becoming enamored of reason and logic. And it seeped into the church as well. The idea that imagination was somehow a bad thing and that we should lean on reason, logic, and theology. And that was somehow a purer form of thought. But there's something lost there. So this is what he has to say here. In what sense should we speak of the imagination as fallen? In some quarters, particularly in classic Calvinism, the imagination is seen as somehow more degraded and overthrown than reason. Theology is therefore pursued and presented in highly logical form, as removed of imagery as possible. The problem with this approach is that it privileges one faculty over another, as though reason itself were somehow less fallen than imagination. So the idea is that it's not as if our reason is perfect and uncorrupted. After the fall, our logical minds, were just fine. It's our imagination. That's where we get into trouble. He's like, no, there's nothing less fallen about reason than imagination. But we kind of push the imagination away because that's where we think that like the bad thoughts are, and we can overcome that with logic. And he supports it here with this poem called the Incarnate One by Edwin Muir. How could our race betray the image and the Incarnate One unmake, who chose this form and fashion for our own sake? The Word made flesh is here made word again, a word made in flourish and arrogant crook. See there King Calvin and his iron pen. And makes God three angry letters in a book, and there the logical hook on which the mystery is impaled and bent into an ideological argument. So what he's saying there in that poem, he's like, Calvin, God love him, tries to go totally logical, theological, and setting rules down. Imagination is bad. Creative thought is bad. Creative thought is corrupted. The only way to combat that in our human form is through our logical minds, through science, or as Brother Greg always refers to it in my comments and back and forth, science, like in quote marks. He's like, "Oh, science, yeah," because I mean, it's no less corrupted than our imaginations. It's no less corrupted than our creative thought. But we push that aside. We push away the poetic imagination when we talk about, using scientific reductivism to explain nature. It somehow seems more accurate, more honest to describe nature and humanity through scientific means and molecular biology and physics and so forth than to write a poem about it. And in that, we lose some of the mystery of the faith because we can't get a full grasp of what reality is anyway. Our brains can't process that. I heard on NPR today they were talking about dark matter and the expansion of the universe. Now the expansion of the universe may be slowing down, and they're not really sure what's going to happen, tear itself apart, cold death, heat death, expansion, contraction, because they don't know what dark matter is, how dark matter operates, or what it's doing. It's a great embarrassment of physics, as my friend Mark Harris used to say. So the idea that we can use science, reason, logic to explain everything is a fallacy anyway. But to put it in a different category, that our human logic is somehow better, somehow more accurate, somehow less fallen than our imagination is just untrue. That's why we should still look to things like artistic representation of items of faith, painting, sculpture, poetry, writing, because there is a mysterious aspect to our faith. We don't know all aspects of it, right? We know the basics. There is a God. God loves us. God desires a relationship with us, right? But when it comes to figuring out the particulars of that, we can't grasp all of it. Theology can point a way, can give you some outlines, some guidelines to make sure you don't go off the rails into heresies and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, we need the imagination. There's nothing inherently bad about it unless it's pointed to bad ends, which science can be as well. So don't feel bad about reading poetry, Don't feel bad about reading artistic representations of faith and so on and so forth. Um, Lean into it. See if God speaks to you through those means as well. And enjoy the creativity of the mind that you are blessed with. Because God made us in God's image, and all of us made in that image. Reason, logic, and our creativity. So, that being said, I'm going to continue breaking this pipe in. Probably be the only pipe I smoke for the next 3 or 4 days, trying to get this thing all sorted out and seasoned in. So far, it's working out pretty well. Grayboe is a good workhorse pipe. So, hope you have a lovely week. As always, happy reading.